those books came in and you immediately loved them and knew you had to represent them for the folks that are watching or listening to this and are thinking Jennifer March Soloway sounds like a top-notch agent. That's somebody I've got to get with right away. How can they hope to duplicate that experience? What was it about those books or those queries that came in that immediately said to you, you have to have this book?
That's a great question. So I would say most of my clients have come in to me through my query box, so just a cold submission, although I do many conferences per year because I'm trying to get out and meet writers in person, and I have signed a few people that I've met at conferences, and actually there's another manuscript in my box right now that I met him at 2 different events, and I am strongly considering, I think I'm gonna offer him representation, so if he's watching right now, the answer is probably yes.
I hope that there are 5 authors that are in your inbox that think that could apply to them and they all have this moment of hope. Oh, yes.
Well, I should say I've got a number of great manuscripts in my box right now that that I am in the process of reading, and unfortunately I have so much reading to do. I'm a little bit behind, but yes, there's a number of people that I'm very strongly considering, and the one I just mentioned I'm really considering. So what draws me to a query? That's a great question. So for me, I love a great pitch. If you can raise a question in my mind that I need to know the answer for, I will sit up and read all night to find out. If you can really pull me in and raise a question, or maybe 2 or 3, if I just need to know, I'm one of those people where I'll have to binge read until I can find out. For both of those queries, they came into my box and the voice was just incredibly strong. Both of those projects, the YAs, are close, confiding first-person narratives where I felt like that character was confiding to me secrets that they wouldn't tell anyone else. So it's a deeply intimate relationship that I have as a reader with the character, and that's something I really enjoy. I like to read for 2 different, I like to read for many reasons, but especially when I was reading YA as a younger kid, there were 2 things I really liked to read for. One was to read someone's experience and know that I wasn't alone, that someone else had experienced something that I'd felt. And I found that very gratifying and very helpful and hopeful and supportive. Also, additionally, I find that literature is the one way that I can step into someone else's shoes and experience the world in a way that I would never be able to experience as me with my personal history. So I really enjoy that. If you can open up my mind to a new perspective and let me see the world through someone else's eyes in a deeply intimate way, that's something I love. I'm very drawn to stories set in other cultures, other cultural experiences, other genders, other sexuality than mine, because I want to know what it's like to be those people, and I want to relate and connect with them. And literature is, I feel like, is the one medium, better than film, better than anything else, that's allowed me to really, truly understand other people.
Always said one of the great tragedies of life is that you have to go through it as just one person, and there are so many incredible experiences out there that could be had. That's something that brings me back both to writing and to reading as well, as that opportunity to live multiple lifetimes within my one lifetime.
Exactly. Like with private lessons, I am not Filipina. I am not a concert pianist. I have never competed on the stage in that regard. So it's really exciting for me to get into that character's mind and understand what that was like for her. Similarly, like understanding what it would be like to be a Black girl with a father on death row, which I found incredibly just moving and compelling. And I was rooting for that character. I fell in love with that character right away. And that's, I would say, what I'm hoping to is fall in love with a story.
So what is it about a character that attracts you, that makes you fall in love with them right off the bat?
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot. A lot of it has to do with voice. And I know everyone says, like, I'm looking for that great voice, that fresh voice, that voice I haven't heard before.
Yes, hundreds of writers are pulling out their hair right now. No, explain.
What does that mean? Do I have a voice? And I'm here to say yes. yes, you do have a voice. Everybody's voice matters, and I truly believe that. Part of it is getting your voice onto the page and developing that voice in the way that works best for the story. And there's so many different craft options that can work for different projects. For me, I think with characters, a lot of it has to do, voice has to do with point of view, like the details that that character will see and why, and what their eye is drawn to, what they make of it, how they interpret their world is a very interesting, I really like that about characters, especially when they see or notice things that I just would never notice or think about. I'm like, wow, I love that. I love to read about people who think in very different ways from me. Like even, and that doesn't just have to be with like culture. That could be like I used to work with toy designers, and those guys, all of them think very differently from me. I don't think in industrial design ways, and I am fascinated by the way those brains work. So it can be, I think it's perspective, I think it's details that they see, I think it's their thoughts and understanding who that character is, what they care about, what they want most, what their biggest fears are. And I also think that it has to do with word choice and how, the diction and how the character speaks on the page. Sometimes, if you're, for example, working on a fantasy or a historical, sometimes like a third person point of view is a better way to create voice, because it gives you more room to talk about a bigger world. Because we don't really talk about like, I am sitting in my kitchen, with a clock behind me. It's not natural in a first person voice to necessarily talk that way, but in a third person narrative, you can really describe your surroundings in a very effortless and flowing, well, I shouldn't say effortless, a seemingly effortless flowing way that's very accessible and paints this vivid, beautiful world. But I think that's voice. Other than that, I don't know. Everybody can do it, but it takes a lot of revision and it takes a lot to get it right.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
We were